Assalamualaikum and good day to my panel. My name is Nadia binti Rajmisha and I'll be present about my research. My topic for my research is the impact of ethical leadership for employee engagement. For my presentation outline, first is introduction, second will be literature review, third will be methodology, fourth will be analysis, and lastly is discussion. For my background of research is to discover how ethical leadership can influence employee engagement. And second is to focus on ethical leadership elements that are in the ethical leadership framework. For my research problem, a few studies imply that engagement levels are declining at a time. And second is to investigate about the relationship between ethical leadership and employee engagement. Third, about what kind of issue that employees in Volkswagen Glamoury Service Center need to face in their workplace. For my research question and research objective, my research question have 4 of research question. First is two-way communication is a good way to form an employee engagement? Second, how important is the ethical standard in the workplace to form an employee engagement? Third, how credible role models can influence employee engagement? And lastly is how decision-making process can influence employee engagement. For my research objective, there are 4 of them. First is to investigate the relationship between employee engagement and two-way communication. Second, to investigate the relationship between employee engagement and ethical standard. Third, to investigate the relationship between employee engagement and role model. Fourth, to investigate the relationship between employee engagement and decision-making process. This is my framework hypothesis, my conceptual framework. I have 4 IV and 1 DV. For my first IV is two-way communication. Second IV is ethical standard. Third IV is credible role model. And fourth IV is decision-making process. For my DV is employee engagement. For the hypothesis, firstly is two-way communication has a positive relationship with employee engagement. Second hypothesis, ethical standard has a positive relationship with employee engagement. Third hypothesis, credible role model has a positive relationship with employee engagement. And the last hypothesis is decision-making process has a positive relationship with employee engagement. For the literature review, I have found a gap in research about employees in Volkswagen Glamoury Service Center about how ethical leadership can influence their employee engagement using two-way communication, ethical standard, credible role model, and decision-making process. The definition of ethical leadership is the demonstration of normatively appropriate conduct through interpersonal relationship and the promotion of such conduct to followers through reinforcement, decision-making, and two-way communication. This definition is wrote by Braun in 2005 and Dean Hartog in 2015. The definition of my DV, which is employee engagement, means employee engagement is focused on the work itself. It should not be confused with work engagement, which is defined in the literature as a positive work-related that is characterized by enthusiasm, commitment, and involvement. This definition is wrote by Schofeli and Baker in 2004. For the research method, there are 3 things in population and sampling. First is target population, sample size, and sampling technique. Okay, in this table, for the component, first is research approach. I use quantitative. For the research design, I use cross-sectional survey. And for the method, I use survey method. For the type of data is primary. And the instrument, I use questionnaire. And for the data collection, I use collection data in Google Form. And for the data analysis, I use the latest version of SPSS, which is SPSS 26. And for the target population for my research is the employees in Volkswagen Glamour Service Center at Shah Alam. And the sample size in this research is total of employees in Volkswagen Glamour Service Center is 300, including in the workshop and the office department. So the sample size for this research is 300 of employees. And for the sampling technique, I use cluster sampling, which is a total of Volkswagen Service Center in Selangor is 8 of them, and I only use one in Glamary. This is the summary of measurement. Each of the variable, I use 5 items, and the type of scale for each variable is nominal scale. For the first variable, the sample item is, I think two-way communication is important for employees to have ethical manner. The source is by AV 2012, Brown and Trevino in 2006. For the sample item ethical standard is beneficial for employees, which is wrote by Trevion in 2003. And the sample item for role model is I will likely take responsibility for my action, and wrote by Brown and Trevino in 2014. The sample item for decision-making process is I believe that ethical leaders' moral management can make employees become less morally disengaged in their decision-making. And this is wrote by Moore in 2008. And the last variable is employee engagement. The sample item is employee engagement is positively related to ethical leadership, which is wrote by Chok Tai in 2015 and Demetas in 2015. For the data analysis, in data analysis, I put responder profile, and the demographic characteristic have 5 of them. First is gender. For gender categories is male and female. Male has frequency of 104 and percentage 61.5, and female has frequency of 65, and the percentage is 38.5. For the age group, I put 4 of categories. First is 22 until 25 of age group. The frequency is 15 and the percentage is 29.6. For age group 26 until 29, the frequency is 60 and the percentage is 35.5. For the age group of 30 until 33, the frequency is 47 and the percentage is 27.8. And the age group in 34 and above, the frequency is 12 and the percentage is 7.1. For the educational level, there are 5 of categories. First is high school. The frequency is 16 and the percentage is 38.5. For diploma degree, the frequency is 77 and the percentage is 45.6. For the bachelor's degree, the frequency is 65 and percentage is 38.5. For the categories in master's degrees, the frequency is 10 and the percentage is 5.9. And the last categories in educational level is PhD or higher than that is one frequency only and the percentage is 6. For the marital status, the categories in merit has frequency of 94 and percentage is 55.6. And for the single categories, they have frequency of 75 and percentage 44.4. For the participant income, I separate to 4 categories of income. First is RM 1000 until RM 2000. The frequency is 61 and percentage is 36.1. For the second income of participant, RM2000 until RM5000, and the frequency is 76, which is the highest, and the percentage is 45.0. The third income in the third categories in income is RM5000 until RM10000. The frequency would be 31 and percentage is 80.3. And the categories for last participant income is RM10000 and above. The frequency is 1, which is the lowest frequency in participant income, and the percentage is 6. This is my descriptive analysis. For the variable, for the two-way communication, the mean is 4.0970 and standard deviation is 0.61423, and the minimum is 2.20 and the maximum is 5.00. For the ethical standard, their mean is 4.3583, standard deviation is 0.53292, and the minimum is 2.40 and the maximum is 5.00. For the credible role model, the mean is 4.5048 and the standard deviation is 0.48693 and the minimum is 2.80 and the maximum is 5.00. For the fourth variable decision making process, the mean is 4.3337 and standard deviation is 0.50790 and the minimum is 2.60 and the maximum is 5.00. For the last variable is employee engagement. The mean is 5.6619 and standard deviation is 0.47649 and the minimum is 3.00 and the maximum is 5.00. This is my reliability test. The number of items is still 5, and as you can see here, all the variables is more than 0.5. So all of my reliable variable is accepted because it is more than 0.7. And for the correlation analysis, the first variable is two-way communication with employee engagement is 0.237, which is considered as small. And for the ethical standard is 0.338, which is in moderate correlation. And for the role model is 0.439. It is considered as moderate too, and the decision making process is 0.426. It is considered as moderate scale 2. For the regression analysis, this is my IV. First is two-way communication with hypothesis negative 0.076 for the beta, and the p-value is 0.329. And the ethical standard is hypothesis 2, 0.131, and the p-value is 0.108. And for the raw model is the hypothesis 3, 0.288, and the p-value is 0.00. For the last variable is decision making process. This is the fourth hypothesis. The beta is 0.315 and the p-value is 0.000. For the hypothesis testing, which is the regression summary table. For the hypothesis, the standard coefficient for two-way communication with employee engagement is negative 0.076, which is considered as small, and t-statistic is negative 0.970, and the p-value of two-way communication is 0.329, and the decision is rejected. For the ethical standard, the standardized coefficient is 0.131 and t-statistic is 1.614 and the p-value is 0.108 and the decision is rejected. For the role model, standardized coefficient is 0.288, the t-statistic is 3.783 and the p-value is 0.000 and the decision is accepted. For the decision-making process, the standardized coefficient is 0.715 and the t-statistic is 4.07 and the p-value is 0.00 and the decision is accepted too. For the discussion of finding for hypothesis 1 is as stated in the multiple regression analysis, two-way communication has significance of 0.29. Standardized coefficient that two-way communication has is a scale of negative 0.76 only. The hypothesis of this variable is not accepted and supported because the scale of p-value is negative 0.76. Because the p-value is 0.29, which is more than 0.05. So this for the hypothesis 1 is not accepted and supported. For the hypothesis 2, a scale of 0.131 is found at the standardized coefficient for ethical standard. The variable only has a scale of 0.108. This result of this hypothesis is not accepted and supported because this variable is more than 0.05, which is 0.108. And the standardized coefficient 2 is considered as small because it has a scale of 0.131. For the hypothesis 3, our model shows a coefficient of 0.288. Multiple regression analysis of role model has shown a significance of 0.00. This hypothesis is accepted and supported because it shows a significance of 0.00. For the last hypothesis is decision-making process. The scale of 0.315 is found at standardized coefficient for decision-making process. In the multiple regression analysis, the decision-making process has shown a positive significance with employee engagement because their scale is 0.00. Lastly is conclusion. Organizations need to take action by taking responsibility in ensuring that ethical leaders can lead to management practice, and the trust in leaders is leaders is built through the presence of ethically based on business function and system. And that's all from me. Thank you.